Good morning, y'all. When I was 15 years old, 15, 14, around there, I was initiated into a gang. And I put in a lot of work. I was a vicious little motherfucker. Within a couple months, probably less than a year, there was a meeting that was held. It was a gang meeting that was held. And during that meeting, the leader of our gang tells us, you know, at that time we were struggling with a lot of warfare. There was a lot of competing gangs in the area, and our numbers were growing. And he said, I think it's time for us to split ourselves up into sets, right? So we were all one gang under one banner and one leader. But he decided to split us up into smaller factions. Each faction would be led by two people, okay? And these two people would work together to lead each one of these sets or factions. I was like, okay, cool. Then he said, we're going to split ourselves up into 5 different sets. So I'm going to pick 10 generals. And he goes on picking each person that he wants to lead and pairing them up together. You two together, you two together, you two. Then he turns around and he looks at me and he picks me. I was surprised. I had only been with the gang for only a couple of months. I was one of the younger people out of all the people that he selected. I think I was the youngest one. And immediately after he picked me, I was surprised, but I took it. Hell yeah. Immediately after he picked me, one person in the gang, he was an older dude, he was about 18 years old. He objects. And he says, how is it that you're going to pick him? He's a kid. He's 14 years old. I've been down longer than he has. The leader turns around, looks at him and says, yeah, you've been down longer than he has, but this little motherfucker has more heart than you. And he shuts the fuck up, doesn't say anything. Okay. I grew up a pretty shy kid. I never really, not extroverted. I wasn't extroverted at all. And this was the first time that I was put in any kind of leadership role in my life. I took it with stride. I took it with pride. And I selected, me and the other general that I was working with, we were good friends at that time, and we selected the soldiers that we wanted to be part of our set. And for the next couple of months, I organized the hell out of them. We took over I think we started with maybe 4 square blocks. Held that down for a while. I got everybody walkie-talkies. We would have scouts continuously monitoring the territory 24/7. Making money, going to war, doing everything, right? And I specifically picked 4 square blocks that were directly adjacent to the enemy's territory. And I did that on purpose. Because I was going to bring it to them hard. I didn't like these motherfuckers at all. And I did. See, because for them to basically, the area that we were was a peninsula. And they were at the very bottom of the peninsula on the southern end. And for them to basically get anywhere else, they had to cross through our territory. So I was very intentional in how I did that. And every chance I would get to catch them passing through our territory, I would attack. So they learned to either come through our territory prepared or find an alternative route. I go on to say that this allowed me the ability to flex my leadership skills in a street warfare scenario. I did pretty good. Now, this is where conflict started to arise between me and my co-general. And this is where I think the flaw comes down to whenever you pick two leaders instead of just one. There were times where, for whatever reason, I wasn't around, but my co-general was. And so he would make a decision. There was one time in particular where he was trying to organize an attack on the enemy. The soldiers didn't think the way that he was doing it was a good idea. And they refused to follow him. And one of them went as far to say, we're not going to go anywhere unless Marcos is here. That got him pretty fucking mad, as you can imagine. And so tension started to arise between him and I. And of course, it had led to us falling out and becoming enemies at some point. He struggled with women. I didn't have too much struggle with women. I mean, I was a young kid. I was nowhere as good with women as I am now, or grew to be later. But there was already a seed implanted in me at that time. Okay? Fast forward a couple of years, I get out of the gang life, and I end up working, living a normal civilian life. And I'm working this job at a laboratory. I'm one of the technicians there. The supervising laboratory technician picks me and kind of puts me under his wing and teaches me a lot of things, and then goes on to tell me that he's leaving and he wants me to take his spot. And again, it was a repeat scenario in the sense of I was not there as long as a lot of the other technicians that were there. I was there for maybe, again, a few months. And there were technicians that were there for years. And of course, there was dissent, or there was objection. Other people expected themselves to take that supervising position, but they were not selected. I was. Again, another leadership position that I was placed into. And I think I did pretty well in that scenario also. Okay? Developed my leadership capacities. Then I became a teacher, a college professor, which teaching is also a leadership position. You're leading a class of students into a realm of specific knowledge. Another way in which I develop my leadership capacities. And I've noticed that the more leadership capacities that I've taken throughout life, the better I got with women. What is it about leadership that women like? First off, women don't like to make their own decisions. There may be some feminists out there that would disagree, but what I've noticed is that women like men who take charge. It's not an oppressive charge. It's simply the capacity to make a split decision in the moment without hesitation. That's really what it boils down to. Another thing is that to be an effective leader, you have to think about how dictators work. There's two different types of dictators. I'm not a big fan of democracy, to be quite honest with you. I like authoritarianism, particularly. Now, why? I think authoritarianism and dictatorship has had a bad rap because there are a lot of dictators out there that power gets to their head, whatever, they start doing crazy shit. But there's two different types of dictators out there. There's the dictator that rules by fear and force. And he's seldom loved by his people. Then there's the dictator that rules by force and inspiration, not fear. They will inspire you by reminding you that following them is following them into a path, into a calling that is greater than yourself. And this is what gives people purpose. And it's the same thing with women. You need to be able to inspire a woman to follow you into a calling that is greater than herself. Whether it's raising a family to have kids, whether it's love, a relationship with you, whether it's ecstatic passion and lust. The point is, she wants to get swept away in passion, in fire, in desire. And a good leader is capable of doing that. The dictator that leads by inspiration, we can see generals throughout history that had men that would follow them into the pits of hell. A lot of times those generals were fearless, but above all, they understood that they were a servant to their men, not the other way around. And that's another characteristic of a good leader, is that a good leader always sees himself as a servant to the people he's leading. And it's true. If you, at any point as a leader, and you're leading a woman, and you determine that she's your servant, she's going to quickly start to feel oppressed. And this is the kind of masculine oppression that some feminists talk about. And I get it, because there are men that do that, right? But those men are not good leaders. And they will not have women following them for long. And any woman that does follow them is going to be an oppressed woman. And an oppressed woman does not express her femininity to the fullest extent. A woman that does not express her femininity to the fullest extent is not a good woman. You're not even going to want to have her around. You're going to lose attraction for her over time. So a good leader is able to lead in a way where they bring the best out of the people that they're leading, because they believe in them, they serve them, they put their needs first. Well, I shouldn't say first, because the needs of the group and the tribe always come first over the individual. But they consider their needs. And they make it so that the person is willing to put their own individual needs to the side for the good of the tribe. So, if you struggle with women, you need to develop your leadership capacities. A place to start is to develop competence in something. When you develop competence in any one skill, it gives you confidence. Confidence naturally leaks out into charisma. Confidence, charisma, and competence all allow you to be a better decision maker. And altogether, that will make you a good leader. Talk to you guys next time.